Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, Heart and Soul. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jessica. And today I wanted to do a video on meltdowns for people who have autism and what that entails and what that looks like. And, maybe the temper tantrum you think someone is having really isn't a temper tantrum at all. So I would just like to let you know about the meltdowns. And so if you could please like this, if you like it, and share it out where you can on any platform. And also subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you to all the people that have commented on my videos, liked my videos, and subscribed. I really do appreciate you. So for today's video, I wanted to try and explain the severe meltdown that comes along with autism. A meltdown and shutdown are usually caused by high levels of stress to a point where the person with autism is no longer able to cope. These can be triggered by any situation and can be the result of an accumulation of stressful events or over a period of time, hours, days, or even weeks. Meltdowns can look like any of these actions: withdrawal, where the person zones out, stares into space, and or his body parts do repetitive movements or outward distress, crying uncontrollably, screaming, stomping, curling up into a ball, growling, etc. So what do you do when this happens, especially if it's a very loud, very public meltdown? Be empathetic. Empathy means listening and acknowledging their struggle without judgment. Make them feel safe and loved, and eliminate punishments. Focus on your child and not on all the people who don't understand that will be staring at you from the start of that meltdown until it's finished. Break out your sensory toolkit, which consists of a group of sensory items gathered into one collection and is either kept in a classroom or close by where it is accessible for immediate use. For example, in our sensory toolkit, we would have a back scratcher, a DVD player, her string. She plays with these little ropes and she spins them into these balls. Soft music, soft blanket, and medication specifically for meltdowns, because that's major. Anything that typically calms down the person having the meltdown should be included in your calm down kit. Be sure to introduce the calm down kit to the person with meltdowns when they are calm. During a meltdown or period of anxiety, a child can go into fight or flight or freeze mode, making it difficult for them to make decisions and think logically. So getting your child accustomed to their calming kit will help out tremendously during their meltdown because it's familiar to them, and that alone can be comforting enough to help them through their meltdown. Meltdown for people with autism generally begin with warning signs called rumblings. Rumblings are outward signs of distress that can either be obvious or subtle. Rumblings might start with a verbal plea to go now, or visually obvious signs of distress, such as putting their hands over their ears. They may fall down, act out, cry, swear, scream, throw things, hit themselves or others, run away from you, or even bite themselves or others. Meltdowns can last anywhere from a couple of minutes to hours. It really just depends on the individual and the severity of the trigger which caused the meltdown to begin with. In addition, a child with autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, may have uncontrollable temper tantrums and extreme resistance to change and over and under sensitivity to sights and sounds. Meltdowns are often the result of situations which are highly stimulating or create high levels of anxiety, which feel like they can't escape. When someone is in this situation, their reaction is either fight or flight or freeze. If the individual feels like they can't escape, this leaves them only two options, which are fight or freeze. Meltdowns are similar to the fight response. When a person with autism is having a meltdown, they often have increased levels of anxiety and distress, which are often interpreted as frustration, a tantrum, or an aggressive panic attack. It's very important to understand that meltdowns are not temper tantrums. They are a reaction to a highly distressing situation or environment. While in a meltdown, an individual can be both injurious to themselves because of the extreme state of anxiety their body is in. That's why it's really important to minimize the risk of this happening, both for the person and those around them. Meltdowns are very physically tiring and emotionally draining for that individual. This is because the person has been in a distressing situation and has had a highly adrenalinized and emotionalized response. If meltdowns are equivalent to the fight response, then shutdowns are similar to the freeze response. They are often the result of situations with high demand in one or a few of the following areas: social situations, situations that require a lot of thinking, a lack of sleep, very emotional situations, and situations that are very active or physical. An analogy for a shutdown is like a computer trying to turn on, but it can't because there isn't enough power to do so. In a shutdown, an individual with autism might not see themselves because they're so overwhelmed that their focus has shifted to the basic functions, as they are at a reduced ability to process what is going on. They may struggle to communicate as they normally do, which can mean they are mute or have a lot of difficulty forming coherent sentences. Preemptive planning can really help to mitigate against triggers that might lead to meltdowns. For example, you can reduce anxiety related to uncertainty about certain situations by providing information about what to expect in advance, such as a visual timetable or agenda. Another way to reduce the likelihood of a meltdown is to create environments that don't overwhelm the senses. For example, allowing children and young people to wear ear defenders in noisy rooms, or dimming the lights to create a less harsh ambience. It can be very difficult and distressing to support someone during a meltdown, so knowing what to do in advance is key. The best way to find out what causes someone to have a meltdown is to ask them or someone who knows them very well. The best remedy for a shutdown is giving the individual the space to rest, recuperate, and recover without placing additional demands on them. A shutdown can be like a reset for someone with autism. So what does a shutdown look like for someone with autism? They may not respond to communication anymore, retreat to their room, or lie down on the floor. They may also no longer be able to move from the situation they are in, no matter what it is. For example, a shopping center or a classroom, shutdowns tend to be more discreet than meltdowns and may sometimes go unnoticed. Shutdowns for people with autism is a part of their life. There are multiple root causes for a shutdown, including the result of sensory overload, physical and mental exhaustion, unexpected news, anxiety about an upcoming event, and upheaval in our schedule. Children, teenagers, and adults that have been diagnosed with autism can suffer a meltdown at any time. Even the most high-functioning adult with autism can experience a meltdown if they are exposed to high levels of stress. The world that we live in is largely built on a neurotypical one. This means that there are many things in it and experiences of it that cause us people with autism to be sensorily, socially, and emotionally overwhelmed. When this happens, it's important to know that it's normal and what you can do to recover from it and hopefully avoid it in the future, or at least reduce the severity of the shutdown, burnout, meltdown, or overwhelm. The warning signs of a burnout for people with autism are actually quite easy to spot if you know what to look for, either from an external point of view as an observer or loved one, or internally from the point of view of someone who has autism. These are the warning signs: a growing lethargy, an increase in irritability, an increase in anxiety, an increase in oversensitivity to sensory information, a dramatic decrease in sensitivity to sensory information, heightened auditory processing disorder, which is an auditory processing disorder, or APD, is a hearing problem that affects about 3 to 5% of school-age children. Kids with this condition, also known as Central Auditory Processing Disorder, or CAPD, can't understand what they hear in the same way other kids do. This is because their ears and brain don't fully cooperate. They also experience a decrease in verbal language, a decrease in text language, an increase in shutdowns, and heightened withdrawn state. An increase in frequency and severity of meltdowns, a diminished ability for the person to self-regulate their emotional state, the slowing down of the thought process, such as brain fog, memory loss, a decrease in your ability to effectively communicate what you want. They have a decrease in motivation and inability to generate momentum of the body and of action. An increase in rigidity, narrowing of thinking, a feeling like your vision is tighter or narrower, extreme forgetfulness, extremely overwhelmed, a massive increase in guilt, an increase in executive dysfunction, and an increase in demand avoidance. which involves not being able to do certain things at certain times, either for yourself or for others, and also refers to the things we do in order to avoid demands. It's a natural human trait. Avoiding demands is something we all do to different degrees and for different reasons. People with autism may avoid demands or situations that trigger their anxiety or social sensory overload, disrupt routines, involve transitioning from one activity to another, and activities and events that they don't see the point in or have any interest in. They may refuse, withdraw, shut down, or escape in order to avoid these things. Some helpful approaches including addressing sensory issues, helping individuals adjust to new situations, for instance, by using visual or social stories, keeping to a predictable routine, giving plenty of notice about any changes, for accepting that avoiding some things is perfectly acceptable. So how do you handle an individual that's experiencing a meltdown? Try to remain calm and non-confrontational. The meltdown can be linked to a panic attack, so reassurance and calm approach rather than recriminations or punishment is likely to be more effective. Avoid direct demands like "you need to" or "you've got to." Instruction should be short and simple, or offer simple reassurance. Speak in terms of what you would like to happen rather than what you would like them to stop. For example, you may feel calmer if you stand still rather than stop running around. Give emotional and physical space that they need to calm themselves. So the question is, can you grow out of PDA? Children with PDA grow up to be adults with PDA. Just like the overriding autism diagnosis, pathological demand avoidance, or PDA, is a lifelong condition. It won't simply go away or be grown out of, but PDA can be helped by others around them using the correct strategies. So can you have PDA without having autism? Those conditions are not autism spectrum disorder profiles. They can be present in individuals who do not have a diagnosis of autism. PDA is, however, a type of autism. Young people with PDA have obsessions which tend to be social in nature. They can be overpowering in their liking for certain others. The most behavior is obsessive, especially the demand avoidance, and can lead to low levels of achievement. They become overly attached to a specific person opposed to an object or a subject. This means that they are keenly interested in one particular thing, a particular subject, or a particular film or toy. This is when the PDA person needs to learn how to use boundaries. This may not be easy for someone with PDA, especially if they don't know or understand where they are going wrong or are unable to control their impulses. There are times when PDA people may require some help in understanding how to allow other people space. This is even more difficult for individuals with PDA when they are young, as they won't or don't have the ability to understand. There are many factors which can end up contributing to a meltdown. We need to learn to accept and understand meltdowns for exactly what they are. It's a child's subconscious or unintentional way of signaling that he or she needs something from the adults around them or from their environment. So I just wanted to do a quick book report on meltdowns. The reason why it's so important is because my daughter has autism and epilepsy, and her doctor took her off her sleeping medication. She doesn't sleep, ever, never. She never slept the whole time she was in the hospital, newborn, those 3 days, never slept. She's never slept, always been a terrible sleeper. It's like having a newborn, you know, you're lucky if you get an hour or two, if you even get to sleep at all. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because this is exactly what my daughter is going through right now. She is going through a burnout, meltdowns. She was on medication before, so it was masking any symptoms she really had. So they didn't have anything to go off of to treat her with a proper medication. So now that she's off a medication and we're seeing that that's causing problems, that is the problem, is that there was not another medication to replace the medication that they took her off of. So now my baby is like, she's having, she's 6 feet tall. She's a big kid. Like, these are not little tantrums. These are massive meltdowns that affect our everyday life all day, every day. When she is in that frame of mind, that is it. There is not a thing you can do to distract her, you know, transition her to something else. There's no way. Her mind is so focused on that, and that is it. So, you know, she's getting up and, you know, staying up all night. She hasn't slept for 2 days, and she slept for 12 hours, but that was only because she was up for 6 straight days. So, you know, I spoke with her doctor, and I was like, listen, you cannot just leave my kid out here like this. Like, I can't. I'm watching her struggle every single day, and that is just unacceptable. So we need to do something about this. You know, I'm her voice. I have to represent her and let them know, listen, you know, this is not okay. We're not going to just keep letting this go on, because this isn't something simple. This affects every single aspect of her life, my husband, my mom, anybody that's involved in her at school. You know, she's getting aggressive and hitting other people, and I think she feels trapped. Like, there's no way out for her. And being nonverbal, she can't tell me, you know, how she's feeling, what she's feeling. So she speaks through her, you know, body movements and actions. So of course, when you're frustrated and you can't verbally say it, you know, it's like, of course it's going to come out through anger or frustration, and people misinterpret that, and they're intimidated by her. And I just want people to know how serious meltdown, shutdown, burnout, overwhelm truly is. And it is often mistaken for depression because you have the uncontrollable emotions, and but in all actuality, there is medication for it. You can get, you know, anxiety medications or depression medications, whatever, you know, your doctor thinks works best with your, you know, brain chemistry. But other than that, like, it's often mistaken and often misdiagnosed, and that is the problem. And I'm so glad, in a sense, that she was taken off that medication, and these emotions and triggers came out, in a sense, because now we can hopefully treat her with the proper medication. And she has a really great group called Complex Care, out of Rochester, New York, where we're from. And he actually understands. I called him and I was like, please, I'm begging you. I need your help. I don't know where else to go or what to do. And I said, I feel like no one hears us. It's falling on deaf ears, as always. And he's like, I understand. And I think he really does understand. And that's the best part. Someone that actually listens and realizes that there's a problem and it's got to be fixed. So I'm hoping and praying that she gets on the right medication. She has an appointment coming up with her psychiatrist next week. So I'm praying, but I really want people who have autism to get the right meds and the right diagnoses of stuff, because it makes such a difference. And it's just so hard. And, you know, when you're staring at somebody in the store because you think they're being a brat, or you know, you're just so busy staring and not thinking of the, you know, it could be this, or, you know, maybe what if they have special needs? You automatically are so quick to judge that you don't think of the other things it could be. And I mean, I've remembered meltdowns in the store where people were staring and laughing, and it's like, to me, that's delusional. You know, I'm watching these people watch us, and I'm thinking, what are you looking at? You know what I mean? Like, you've never seen somebody with special needs, like, you know, have a bad moment. So the judginess and the not understanding and just quick to assume is harmful. It's harmful to people because they're not getting the help and proper acknowledgement of what's going on. It's either being masked or it's something else, you know, misdiagnosed. So I'm really excited for what's to come, and I pray that this works so she can go back to maybe sleeping for the first time ever in her life. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I really just want people to get, the help that they need and the meds and stuff like that, because this affects every single aspect of their life. But thankfully, after this meltdown came a reset, and she is just doing so well, and I'm so thankful. She might not be sleeping, but she's not really that aggressive, and she's not standing at the door from 5 a.m. asking to go somewhere until she goes to bed, and it's like that some days. So I just want people to know that there is hope, there is help, and